Hey guys, welcome to our first session of a new segment we're going to have, Level 2 Couch Conversations, because we're sitting on a couch.
And we're conversing.
So it makes sense. Today's topic is something that's been in the media a lot, virtual reality.
We're going to go in depth about all the different types, the pros and cons, what we think of them, all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in.
Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level.
So there's a few major players in the VR world. The one I think that's probably has the potential for most success is the PlayStation VR. You do have the Oculus Rift, which is known as kind of the first one to go consumer mainstream. You have the HTC Vive. And then you do have a couple smaller ones. So you have Google Cardboard and Samsung Gear. So what do you guys think about VR? Do you think it's going to be something that is just a gimmick, or do you think it's going to become something of the future?
Yeah, I think it's going to have an uphill battle to fight probably, but I definitely think that this is less of a gimmick than something that Nintendo's maybe done with, like, you know, the Wii and everything like that. So I think that inherently anything that is almost a development in technology is going to be viewed at first as a gimmick. Like if you look at like touchscreen phones, like it was like, oh, whatever, that's dumb. Or you look at like Siri or something like that, or Cortana on you know, the Android platform, Microsoft platform, yeah, whatever. It's all bullshit. So like you look at those things and it was like, oh, something that is voice recognition, like that's a gimmick. And now it's one of those things where like we can't necessarily think of a phone without that. So I think it's more so than like the PlayStation Move or you know, Kinect or
I think those two are a reaction to how well the Wii was doing. Yeah, I think that's what that was versus this. I don't think is a reaction to anything. I think this is
just one of those future projects.
Yeah,
I feel like it's been a weird like year or two recently. I feel like there's a lot of things that people were dreaming about in the 80s and 90s that are coming to fruition.
Because we have the technology.
We have hoverboards.
We have the technology.
You know, and I think it's a lot of this kind of almost nostalgia to a time when that's what you thought the future was going to be like. So now we're so on the borders to actually being able to pull that stuff off with the technology that's available. The issue with it right now, I think, is largely to do with pricing for a consumer, because it's so expensive to make one of these kits, and the problem is not everyone can go out and drop $400 to $600.
Speaking of pricing, let's go through. I'm going to list kind of, so again, the big players. The most expensive one is the HTC Vive, which is $800 plus a computer or a PC.
Like, you get that included, or
no? You have to buy on top of that a PC, which is about $1,200. The advantage of that is it's the highest end one. It has the best technology. It's probably the one that I think if you were to play, you'll get most immersed in.
And that's Valve's, right?
That's HTC.
But they partnered.
Yes.
It was originally Valve's.
Yes.
And they HTC like bought.
Yeah, and I think that with that one too, like you have to have, I think, 4 USB 3 slots.
And it has 2 cameras set up, so it actually recognizes your room. One of the cool things with that is if you go near a wall, it'll put a blue wall in the game world, say, hey, you're about to hit something.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So that's that. If you have the money to spend, if I had the money to spend, I would probably buy that one just because it is the best, and I think it's the best showcase of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The next most expensive one is probably the most popular one as of right now, just because it's been around. Yeah. Is Oculus Rift. Oculus Rift. It's $600, but again, you have to buy a PC with it. The price range about $1,000 to $1,200 to get one that runs it.
Most people are familiar with
because they've had the dev kits for years.
And Oculus Rift is the one that requires the 3 USB 3 and 1 USB 2, which means if no one has a PC with those specifications on it, and that's the biggest thing right now is that like if you want to have that bomb ass most one, like you got to custom build it, and getting that many USB buses, USB 3, is going to cost a pretty penny.
They are doing one thing they're doing really well is they're actually making pre-built things with the Oculus Rift. So you can buy an Oculus Rift with a PC ready to go on their website, which I think is really cool. The one that, like I said before, I think is going to be the most successful, or has the chance to be the most successful, is the PS4 VR, PSVR.
I kind of like Morpheus. I'm kind of sad they changed that.
I did like that code. It's kind of like how I felt with Project Natal with Kinect. I love that name for whatever reason.
Yeah,
with
Morpheus
Kinect.
is definitely a better, like, if you think about, like, virtual reality, I mean, Matrix was definitely, like, the thing where, I mean, aside from maybe some earlier, like, 1990s movies,
And
but,
even
like...
if they're not, even if they're not alluding to the Matrix on that, Morpheus is also the king of dreams.
And so the advantage of the PSVR, and one of the reasons I think it'll do well is you need a PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it's $400 for a PlayStation, which, yes, it sucks, $400, then $400 on top.
already has one for the most part, so there's not anyone that has... I mean, PC gamers may have a PC, but they don't have a PC
that's able to run it. The one
installed user base.
The one thing that got me mad about the PlayStation announcement was they did not come out and say you required a camera until later on social media.
I think we kind of figured that.
I had a feeling, but it was just interesting, and then their reasoning was the fact that most people own a camera already, which I didn't until about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
like 10%.
Yeah, like 10%. So that's why it's gonna have to buy it again. And then the last two are kind of the lower end. If you kind of just want to try VR, just to try VR. Samsung Gear, I want to say it's about $100, I believe. Yeah. Not 100% on that price. And then the Google Cardboard is what, like 15 for the official one?
Yeah, it's like,
that's kind of awesome.
I think like 40,
50. Yeah, so basically the ways those work is you take your phone, you slide it into this headset thing, and you have two screens going on, and you're able to be in the VR world through it, and you can look around. Those are more for videos versus gaming. Yes, you can do gaming in them, but those are more video-based. But it does give people an idea of what VR is without having to spend $400
with the 360 videos that are right there now?
I assume so.
I think so.
That would be kind of fun.
I'd assume so, because I assume YouTube would work with it.
Yeah.
Their mobile app.
So I think like the most interesting thing with kind of having all of the major headsets announced is to see, like, I mean, so the biggest thing was like, okay, when Oculus Rift was announced at the price point, it was like, okay, this is an $800 to $1,200 thing, and they're like, you know what, we're selling this at a loss because we need to get it out there. Which I'll come back to that point in a second. But then I think it's interesting that the PlayStation VR, which is probably not as powerful, but still has a lot of the functionality.
Yeah.
According to Shuhei, he's like, hey, we're selling this at a profit.
Yep.
And
I saw that the other day.
One person is lying.
Which is funny because, like, a few months ago when all the speculation was going on that it was going to be announced late last year was they're going to sell it for a loss, which you normally do on a console. I mean, they've always said it's going to be a console-based price, which the price didn't shock me when that came out, but it's interesting that they are making a profit on it, because usually you make that up in software sales.
They're probably making a profit because they're finally selling all those fucking moves that they've had in the warehouse.
Just sitting there.
I kind of like that they did that, though. I kind of like that they had, like, the solo thing if you already had everything, or they had this kind of bumper kit that is
$500 gets you everything.
Difference. It feels pretty good.
And it gives you
a camera, 2 moves, and a game and a demo.
Especially since like GameStop actually moved up the price of their moves by $10 once the VR got announced.
Those bastards.
So like like the selling it at a loss, like that actually makes sense to me. I feel like Sony is probably just bullshitting us. Like I guarantee you they are.
Or he said, I mean, we could have taken that quote out of context essentially with the way he said when it was released.
And I guess like we don't necessarily know at a profit, like a profit could be $10-15 and like they're just like, all right, we are like seriously scraping the barrel.
So a little fun fact about PlayStation VR versus the other ones, all the other ones are actually other than the Gear, the lower end are 2 screens for each eye. The PlayStation VR is 1 giant screen.
Interesting.
So it's and it's less likely to get you motion sick because of that, because you don't have to calibrate your eyes. It's like watching a TV screen.
Looks pretty comfortable too.
So I think like the biggest thing though is so they're selling it at a loss mostly to get developers and people to actually buy it, because the way I see it, the only way VR is going to pick up is in the same way that like Blu-ray won the battle. So like Blu-ray won because the pornography industry backed Blu-ray as opposed to HD DVD. And I know that's a like shitty thing to say, to be like,
it's true.
Well, I mean the porn industry, like, but
that's
the porn industry
that's why VHS tapes won over Betamax.
They pretty much through history, the pornography industry, whatever they back is the thing that stands the test of time. And is the thing that we decide to ultimately make, like, okay, this is the thing that we are all going to have. And I think what we'll see is probably in the next year, 2 years, the price points drop quite a bit. Because, I mean, they're probably going to figure out like a version 2 of Oculus Rift where they're all of a sudden like, okay, we don't necessarily need this. We found out we can kind of like cut
well,
costs
look
there.
to become affordable at some point.
Yeah, I mean,
right now we're in that open market, but there has to be a point where buying your new VR headset's like $100, and I think once they reach that singularity, then you'll see it take mass adoption.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it's you always, when you launch something new, the early adopters are willing to pay the premium. I mean, look at the first iPhone versus the second iPhone. I mean, people paid a crap ton for the first iPhone. It wasn't even 3G.
Yeah.
So,
but also on top of that, you have to look at track history, because Sony, not the greatest track history with things that they think are failing quickly. So you have the PSP Go, even to an extent the PS Vita now is suffering a little bit. I spoke to someone in VStock the other day that said they've stopped getting games in from the Vita now. They're just refusing to stock them. So there's some companies doing that. So does Sony have the balls to stay in the game even if they aren't flipping money early? I think is the big question.
There's a big one.
Yeah, because they do cut things. Like the PlayStation TV, like they didn't even iterate on that. It was just like, nah, fuck it. Like
it's like a flight of fancy. It's just like, let's try this and see if it sticks. They can't do that with VR. It's too
and I guess if there's going to be a company that's going to do it, it's going to be Sony, who makes so much more money off of everything else. But
let's talk games.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you didn't know, we have a GoFundMe going on because we think VR is kind of the next big revolution in gaming, along with a lot of people, and we need a little bit of help of getting it. So if you want to check it out, we've got a link down in the description down below. If you can't donate, please share it with your friends, family, your sisters, your ex-girlfriends, whoever you want to send it to. It's something we are kind of excited about with virtual reality, and we want to get our hands on one of these headsets. So thanks again for watching, guys, and check out our GoFundMe page.